I was just out front looking through my telescope at Jupiter, and you can make out its moons pretty well. You can even make out the clouds on its surface pretty well. And if there's any proof for the reality of matter, it's that. I mean, why should this amount of detail exist on this body that is, you know, millions of miles away? Be there. Why would it be so intricate if it was just for me, if it was all in my mind? So obviously matter is real. And maybe the question I'm trying to ask isn't so much what effect the observer has on the matter, but what effect the matter has on the observer. Maybe that's the key issue here, rather than worrying about consciousness. What is it? How does the act of observation affect the events that you're trying to measure? Instead of worrying about that, why not consider what the event is doing to the observer? The act of studying matter empirically has an effect on the rational measurer trying to gather it, trying to digitize it. What is that effect? Well, when we look out at the sky, far enough, as far as we can see, again, not because of a lack of our technology, but because we can't see any further, we see our own birth. We reach the edge of space-time, 13.7 billion light years away. And when we zoom in and look at atomic and subatomic and electromagnetic events, we find our death. We find the death of our ability to understand or describe. We can still predict, statistically at least, but we no longer understand. So this is what matter does to the observer. We look out and see our origin, and look in and see our death. All along this whole rush to understand the natural world around us, we forgot about the act of observation. We can't completely ignore the reverse, which we said we were going to ignore in the beginning, which is what effect the observer has on the matter. And this requires, I guess, turning inward. It's still a form of empiricism. It's just private instead of public. So we have to be a little more conscientious, I guess you could say. Speaking of conscience, it's interesting, I think, that before Descartes, most educated Europeans didn't consider themselves as a consciousness, but as a conscience, as someone who should and shouldn't do certain things based on the community that they were a member of. Only in the modern age, as the Enlightenment really took off, did people start considering themselves individuals, consciousnesses. In other words, they're rational agents who make their own decisions and aren't aren't acting at the behest of their community, of their moral system. They're able to make their own decisions as a consciousness, as opposed to a conscience, which can only weigh things morally. So it's a move from a more necessarily subjectively tainted state of guilt and shame to a state of um, greater freedom, you could say, greater autonomy, greater control over one's actions. But to what extent is this an illusion? I mean, at least when we take this rational consciousness, this ability to abstract ourselves from our community too seriously and deny the fact that the community came first, really. It was a prior stage of our development, and we, to exist, are dependent upon it, even if we take a step beyond it into a deeper degree of autonomy relative to our context. We still need to consider our relationship. And, you know, this is what you find when you turn inward and observe the observer instead of the observation. And I think we can maintain a scientific attitude when we do both of these things. You know, the fact-value distinction that materialist, reductionistic science likes to uphold, which has caused this war between the humanities and the sciences, the technological sciences. It's a false dichotomy. Facts and values cannot be separated in practice. And so every act of consciousness, of analysis, of experimentation is also a moral act, an act of conscience. It's just the nature of human existence that is so. I think you can certainly disagree with me. That seems to be the norm here. So I guess that's enough for now.